Drag song.
Welcome everybody, my name is Trick, and today we're going to be talking about 3 major changes that happened to some of our favorite artifacts that are coming in Season 5. If you guys got to play Season 5 PTR a couple of weeks ago, or maybe you guys watched my stream, you guys know that there were a couple of artifacts that were above and beyond much better than the rest of the artifacts, right? And those were Venom, Tempest Fury, and Phoenix. And yes, all of these 3 artifacts got major changes that happened to them within the last couple of weeks until, well, today. And this is pretty much how it's going to be until the release of Season 5. First, we're gonna go ahead and start with the Phoenix. For those of you that don't know, Phoenix used to be, when they first announced it, they were like, whenever you receive lethal damage, right, you will be invulnerable for 2 seconds on a 180-second cooldown. Then everybody complained about it because it was like too strong. It was basically a defy death, but a million times better. So everybody was pretty much going to use Phoenix. So a lot of people complained, and within 1 week, they went ahead and nerfed it from 2 seconds to 1 second. But after they did that nerf, even though after they did the nerf, everybody was still going to use Phoenix because it was just simply a no-brainer, a 1 second of invulnerability. And on top of that, the great thing about Phoenix is that it comes with Purify and Stamina Recovery. These are 2 amazing perks for Season 5 because, well, more dots are coming, the dots are more predominant than ever. And on top of that, you can go ahead and slap health on it, making Phoenix one of the best accessories in the entire game because you get 3 beast perks, right? Purify, Stamina Recovery, and health. And on top of that, you had Defy Death. But they went ahead and they did change it a little bit, right? So it was basically a Defy Death that if you were able to drink a potion, just survive for that 1 second, you were good to go and you would not die. But recently they made some huge changes where now Phoenix, instead of giving you the invulnerability for 1 second, and if you were able to survive that 1 second, then you were good to go. Instead, they made it that you're now invulnerable for 4 full seconds, right? 4 seconds, you heard me right. It's an incredible amount of time. But the downside to that is that you will die nonetheless after the 4 seconds are over. So basically they made it that you have 4 seconds to go balls deep and do as much damage or healing or whatever you can within those 4 seconds, right? After the 4 second, death it's guaranteed. There's no way to escape it. Or is there? Well, I did an insane amount of testing with Phoenix to see how can we avoid that death. And I did every single testing possible on stream and off stream. If you guys didn't catch my stream the other day, we spent like an hour trying to break Phoenix and see how can we escape this 4 second death. And we did find a way, all right? And the only way that we can escape Phoenix right now is with the help of Ice Gauntlet. Here, I will show you guys exactly how to escape Phoenix death. And the way that Phoenix works, for those of you that don't know, so essentially whenever you receive lethal damage, you will be invulnerable for 4 seconds. The moment that those 4 seconds are over, you will receive a 3-second dot, right? So, and as soon as you receive damage from that dot, you will immediately die because the dot is going to do like 30,000 damage, right? Which mostly nobody will ever have that health, so you will immediately die. So it is a dot. Now you will be like, wait, Trick, but what if I put, for example, a hatchet and then the defy death? How dare you? As I was saying, whenever you receive the lethal damage, you will get that dot for 3 seconds. If you were to put a hatchet on, after the Phoenix effect has expired, right, and you have that dot, well, then Defy Death will proc. But since Defy Death is only half a second, the moment that Defy Death invulnerability goes away, you will immediately die because once again, you will have that dot for 3 seconds on you. And I try to do so many different things to avoid it. I try to use Repulse, I try to use Flurry, and I try to use Defy Death. And like I said, I also tried to use Entomb. With Flurry, it was not able to help me. I mean, I was invulnerable for the first tick of the dot, but then the second tick of the dot will immediately kill me. And the other thing is, the dot does not actually hit you every second. It feels like as long as you have that debuff for the 3 second, it will constantly try to kill you. So if you use like Repulse, the moment that the Repulse invulnerability is over, you will die. If you will use Flurry, the moment that the Flurry invulnerability is over, you'll die. And if you use the Hatchet, the moment that the Hatchet invulnerability is over, you will die. Because once again, it's a 3-second dot that you have on you. Now, the only way that you can escape that imminent death is actually with the Ice Block. Because whenever you use the Ice Block, you are immune to any damage that you have inside of that Ice Block. Oh, and the other thing, it cannot be cleansed, all right? It cannot be cleansed, meaning that if you were invulnerable while using a repulse and then like a healer collapse or something like that, it cannot be cleansed. Also, Purify, again, I cannot stress this enough. It cannot be cleansed. It's a dot that cannot be taken away, except if you have an Ice Gauntlet. I'm gonna go over here and try to drown. I'm gonna proc the Phoenix effect. Here we go. We're going to go all the way down to 0. Once I die, you guys will see the 4-second invulnerability. Before the 4-second invulnerability expires, I will utilize the Ice Block. And the Ice Block is the only thing that will keep you alive, as I'm about to show you guys. So there it proc, you guys see the 3, 2, 1. I'm going to use Ice Block. There is the debuff 1 and 0. And that is the only possible way that you can escape the Phoenix death. Now, 100% this has to be fixed. The reason why I say this has to be fixed is because then every single person in New World that is like a healer or has a very important role in like a ward environment, then everybody's going to start using Ice Gauntlet. And the moment that they proc the Phoenix, 1 second before they die, they're going to use the Ice Block, get out of it, and then basically have a get out of jail free card every 3 minutes with the help of the Ice Gauntlet. Once again, this will most likely and 100% be fixed. It has to be, right? It has to be fixed because we cannot let this go live, because then everybody's just going to be running around with an Ice Gauntlet. If you guys want to go ahead and try to see if you can survive the 3-second dots, go ahead. But like I said, I tried so many different methods to try to survive that dot, and I was not able to. But we did find a way to help us out, and that was with the help of the Ice Gauntlet. Now, the second biggest change that happened, it happened with Venom. This spear right here, it used to be whenever you do a heavy attack, you will apply a 20% weapon damage dot on the enemy for 5 seconds. For those of you that don't know, it used to be with every single heavy attack. Fire Staff, bow, melee, range, life staff, you name it. In the PTR, we did some crazy builds where we were using Fire Staff, right? We were using Fire Staff, and we picked over here Flare, and then we went into an OPR, and then it has a 1-meter splash explosion, right? And since the Venom dot does not have a cooldown, it means that it was able to be applied on anybody that got hit by the heavy attack. So there were like 3, 4, 5 people in a clump, and then I will use a heavy attack with a Fire Staff, and all 5 people will get the debuff from the Fire Staff from Singe, and then they will also get the debuff from Venom. Also, bow. If you were using a bow and you went like full on dexterity and you were doing one heavy attack with a bow, not only you were doing a big damage, because we know that bow hits very hard, but on top of that, it was a nasty 20% weapon damage debuff on the enemy. So essentially, one heavy attack from the bow was taking up to 50% of any person, in live player HP with one heavy attack. So it seems like AGS caught on to that, and they were like, well, everybody's going to be using bow and fire staff with Venom and just simply spam heavy attacks. And obviously that needed to be nerfed, right? It's completely understandable. So what they did is, instead of being with any heavy attack, now it only works with melee heavy attacks. I already tested this with all of the magical weapons and the ranged weapons to see if it was just the wording, but it isn't. Any heavy attack that you try to do, for example, with the Ice Gauntlet, as I'm gonna show you here, as you guys see, it does not work. But if we do a heavy attack with a spear, there is the debuff right there. As you guys can see, obviously it's taking very little because I don't have dexterity. The other thing is, if you use coup de grace, right, the coup de grace will also apply the debuff, because as you guys know, the coup de grace, it is considered a heavy attack. So now Venom is going to be mostly utilized with Sword and Shield and or Rapier, right? Because those are two melee weapons that are consistently doing, you know, fast, heavy attacks. So here, I'm gonna show you coup de grace. There is the coup de grace applying that debuff. And if you were to have, let me kill him real quick. And if you were to have Bleeding Sweep, that will be incredibly powerful. And I recommend that you actually put Bleeding Sweep on the gear if you're going to go with Venom as your primary weapon. I recommend Venom to be used with Sword and Shield primarily coming into Season 5, because the best thing about it is that you can do like a Shield Rush into a Shield Bash, then go behind the enemy. And once you go behind the enemy, as you guys can see, Venom has Transient Crit and Transient Strike, meaning that if you're behind the enemy, it's going to be 100% crit, so it's going to be 34% more critical damage. Then it's going to be 23% heavy damage to that coup de grace. You're going to apply a 20% weapon damage debuff on the enemy, and on top of that, you're going to apply the bleed from Bleeding Sweep. So Venom going on Season 5, I will, like I said, I will primarily recommend it for Sword and Shield, and no longer any ranged weapon will be utilized with Venom primarily. I understand that you can use still, you know, like a bow and Venom, and then whenever the enemy gets close, you can use like a coup de grace. But I feel like it will be such a wasted, you know, artifact to just have in the back pocket if you're not going to constantly be using heavy attack. But obviously, you use whatever build you want. And the third big change that happened to the artifact, it was Tempest Fury. For those of you that don't know, Tempest Fury came out with, instead of refreshing move, it actually had keen speed. As you guys see right here, mine still has like keen speed because you know, it just bugged out, and I got to keep both perks. But what they did is they removed the keen speed and they put refreshing move on Tempest Fury right now, which is completely understandable because Tempest Fury with keen speed and also, you know, whirlwind and momentum, it had an incredible movement and speed. Basically, the moment that you started using whirlwind and you will create an enemy, you will pretty much get to 50% movement and speed, and oh my god, you were going incredibly fast. And it was mostly like an assassin thing kind of thing. But by them removing keen speed and adding refreshing move, they actually made Tempest Fury the ultimate bruiser mega beast great axe in the game. Every bruiser in New World, starting in Season 5, should go ahead and farm the living hell out of Tempest Fury, because this is going to be your bread and butter. This great axe is phenomenal for clumps. It's so incredibly powerful, and together with refreshing move, because, well, if you're like a bruiser in a war, right, you want to use, you know, your abilities as much as possible. We know that refreshing move is one of the best perks for the great axes in Ward. And by then putting refreshing move and removing keen speed out of it, it actually made it, like I said, a top tier great axe for bruisers. Because whirlwind will completely and 100% replace a charge. There's no reason why bruisers should be using charge anymore, because whirlwind will be simply a better charge, right? Because not only whirlwind will give you an incredible amount of fortifications all the way up to like 80%, but it also, you're gonna do an incredible amount of damage. And if you have perks like you know, like Center of Attention and Crowded Protection, we also know that the last perk in whirlwind, if 3 or more foes are around you, you do 15% more damage for each target, maximum 5 target, right? And this is base, meaning that there's no cap to base damage. This can go on and on and on. So 15 times 5, this is going to be 75% increased damage to the whirlwind. On top of that, the perk has a 16% slash damage. This is actually an empower right here, but it's okay because it only lasts 2 seconds, meaning that it's only whenever you're doing the whirlwind, which again, it stacks up to 5 times, which is like gonna be another basically 80% increased damage right there, which is incredibly powerful. And like I was saying, whirlwind will be the replacement to charge, because there are no reasons for bruisers to be using charge anymore. We know that charge can be stopped by friendly players, can stop by enemies, and if you want to get out of that nasty situation, a lot of the times you need to spend your entire stamina bar out of the clump to be able to use charge to get to a safe space. But you don't need to do that anymore. So essentially you will go with Gravity Well, Maelstrom, and you're gonna go with Whirlwind. If you're in a situation that you don't like, the best thing about Whirlwind is that it has grid. So like I said, if you're in a situation that you don't like, all you have to do is just Whirlwind away and you get an incredible amount of movement speed with Whirlwind. By default, as you guys can see, it has an incredible range, meaning that you can go all the way up to your healer. And that is if you want to use it defensively. If you want to use it offensively, you can go right through all of the enemy lines and getting there with a Whirlwind, escaping any freaking CC that might come your way. Well, except for like hard stones, right? And yeah, and that's basically it. So these are the major changes that I want you guys to be aware. Phoenix now is a 4-second of invulnerability, but you will die after the 4 seconds. Tempest Fury, they remove Keen Speed and they added Refreshing Move, which is an incredible change for bruisers. It basically became the best Great Axe for every single bruiser in your world. And the other change happened to Venom, where it used to be every heavy attack and now is only melee attacks. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video and I hope that this was helpful. And other than that, I got nothing else for you guys. I'll see you guys on the stream or here on YouTube. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and bye-bye.